Um, yeah, so this is something that I wanted to give a shot. Um, sorry if you see me adjusting the boom mic. Make sure you guys can hear me. So this is something I'm trying to do a little bit of a experiment um, with this live stream to talk about some social issues, projects that I have going on, and state of the world in politics. So um, I guess you can call this speaking wrong at the right time with me, Adam Coleman. Um, Most of you guys are already familiar with what I do. I write, uh, commentate, I show up on podcasts, I do some TV, some live TV, mostly international. And now I'm starting to get into documentary work. But I'm here because I want to talk about social issues. Um, Starting with the Rhode Island shooting. The Rhode Island shooting situation is tragic, unnecessary, but we could see it coming. This is a person who was already very much so radicalized ideologically. Andy Ngo was pointing out how this very person would yell at him on X, a number of times and go after people. This is someone that, typically I would say this person stays on the internet and doesn't leave into the real world acting this particular way. But when you're dealing with someone who is mentally unstable, who is ideologically driven off of feelings, incredibly narcissistic, puts themselves above everyone, makes everyone around them adhere to what they are, or at least what they say they are, then this is the type of outcome that could potentially happen. And it's unfortunate it's unfortunate that it gets violent, and it's unfortunate that this is not an isolated incident, as in we've seen this combination before in different places. For someone who identifies as trans in this particular manner, but mixed in with aggression, which is why I think that while everyone's focused on trans, the ideology, I think there are, not think, I know that there's generally comorbidities when it comes to this particular problem. It's not just one day they woke up and said they were the opposite sex, is that there are underlying issues that that revolve around this particular problem. It becomes a dynamic where they're the most important thing. And so everyone must adhere to the most important thing around them. And I would go as far as saying it stems from their childhood, maybe, narcissists um, generally come from an extreme lack when they were children and feeling the need to fill that gap because they don't think anyone else can look out for them. And so that's how we get what we have here. Um, so it's always interesting when you see where it manifests, because obviously not every narcissist becomes trans. Um, and I don't know this person enough to try and diagnose them to a great extent. I don't know if they've been used or anything of that nature. Um, but what I do know is they took the lives of innocent people um, over what is at least being alleged a dispute. Um, so what do we do? What do we do as a society when it comes to this particular problem? And it's hard to say. Not every social issue can be fixed socially. Sometimes social issues are incredibly individual. We can refute the ideological format of transgenderism um, and deny that there are more than two sexes, because that's true. It's factual. While at the same time, we have to understand that not everyone's going to adhere to the truth. It reminds me of The Matrix, when he wanted to go back into the Matrix, even though he knew that it was all fake. There was comfort, ignorance is bliss, as they said. There was comfort of going back into the Matrix and believing in a lie. There's also in our society a comfort with telling people lies to make sure they feel comfortable. So it's not just that this person X believes a lie, it's that person Y reaffirms the lie to person X. And so when enough people do that, that feels comfortable. But when person M doesn't affirm, a matter of fact, reacts negatively to the lie, then I can imagine that drives a particular person crazy who already has narcissistic tendencies. So I don't know if there's much you can do because it's very individualistic. It's very much so. How do you react to this particular person? Because not every person has the same story. Obviously, we all have different stories. We have things that overlap. But how do you stop it? I don't think you can. I think that for the most part, this is linked with trends. Um, this is linked with some social behavior, but I think this is linked with trends. How people see the way that they can react. What's their outlet? Some people take that particular outlet. Some people just want to die. I mean, clearly this person wanted to die. And for whatever reason, he wanted to take people with him. So it's not, especially when we say, oh, this was over a conflict. Crime is a passion. That's over a conflict, right? You come home and you see your wife sleeping with your neighbor. You take your gun and you shoot them both. That's considered, I guess, like a crime of passion. Still murder, but it's a crime of passion. But why kill yourself if it's just over a conflict? And it's because there's much more going into that particular person's mind. Um, because they could have easily just rotted in jail. They chose not to. And I think it's because murder wasn't the reason they did it, suicide was. I think that's the situation with most of these school shooters. They really just wanted to die. Whether it's being going out a blaze of glory by having the police shoot them, or they do it themselves. I think. I think. I mean, obviously, people focus on the murder part, rightfully so. But I think it's motivated and driven by suicide. They just want to end themselves. Um, if anybody in the chat wants to say anything, feel free to. Um, yeah, I think it's a complex issue, but um, their prayers go out to their families, lost loved ones there, and honestly, go out to the kids and the families that were there, who were just happened to be there when this insane person wanted to commit this um, awful event. So to switch to a slightly different topic, illegal immigration. Um, the Biden administration really did a whole lot to mess up the equilibrium of our nation. Not that illegal immigrants didn't exist before Biden, of course not. Um, I would go as far as we didn't do enough to make sure people didn't come back. But what we really saw was different sectors of our economy becoming infiltrated with illegal immigrants doing jobs that Americans want to do, can do, and often it has been doing for decades. And trucking is one of those industries. One of the things I really can't stand is when people say Americans don't want to do those jobs. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's the case. Maybe you don't because you live in Manhattan and you don't want to work on a farm. But people who live out in Montana or out in the Midwest somewhere where they grow up around farms, farming is normal to them. Doing this type of manual labor work is normal to them. They want it. You know why? Because it pays the bills. Sometimes it's actually a pretty decent paying job. Not every white collar job is something that everyone wants or everyone should want. So why not set up an environment where Americans can thrive in these particular jobs? But of course, we're going to have cheap labor. I mean, that's the motivation for all of this. It's cheap labor. Labor has been the issue of almost, I don't know, every century. It feels like we go back and forth from slaves to immigrants to you know kidnapping people and forcing them into labor, um, setting up some sort of indentured servitude scenario where it's not quite slavery, but you just work off this debt. I mean, we still have it. I mean, that's exactly what's happening within this country. We just don't call it that. We just think everyone just comes here like how they did in Ellis Island, right? They just cross the border just like you arrived at Ellis Island. But that's not what's going on here. This is a black market. This is cartel operations. This is, in some cases, mafias. Um, we're seeing the infiltration of illegal immigrants coming into different industries, and trucking is one of them. I have the link here for the Gibson Go um, for a documentary that I'm trying to create called The Illegal Highways. And it's about this particular topic, but it's also we're talking about the victims of these truckers, of the illegal immigrants who are driving these trucks on our roads every single day. Um, most Americans have no idea that there are hundreds of thousands of legal immigrants driving these massive trucks, bringing our goods from place to place around this country, and they shouldn't be. They're not qualified to, they're not allowed to, and they work for carriers that don't care about the law, don't care about the rules, and they just do it anyways. And they get away with it by the hundreds of thousands. So I wanted to present this documentary to talk about the families that are affected by these illegal immigrant truckers who are getting to ride around this country doing jobs, and these are skilled jobs. Um, I couldn't see myself being a trucker because of it's difficult to me. Just straight off of it, it sounds difficult. Drive that long, to sit that long, to be skilled enough to handle bringing such heavy loads and not having an accident. Um, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of fortitude. A lot of these guys don't last too long because it wears down on you, on your body. Um, how you eat, how you sleep, and things of that nature. It takes a toll on you. In many cases, these guys they make well in the past. I would say they make good money doing this. This is a working class job. This is a job that, let's say, for example, someone who comes out of jail, they want to get their life together. They want a second chance. They're trying to be legitimate. They work hard to go get their CDL, get behind the wheel, and they can reform themselves. It's an opportunity for someone. Whether they stay as a trucker forever or not is a different story. There's a pathway. It's a pathway to take care of your family. And if there are hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants behind the wheels of trucks taking loads, that also means that there are hundreds of thousands of Americans who are not. It could be. And there's always this complaint that there's a shortage, there's a shortage, there's a shortage. They've been saying there's a shortage for decades. So much so that, I'm not a trucking expert, but the experts I talk to say it's a lie, not a shortage. That was always a push to get where we are today. So, what can we do about the illegal immigrant situation within trucking? I think the first part is we have to deal with our illegal immigration issue in general. Shutting down the border, which Trump has, for the most part, done, was necessary. It's not enough to have deportation numbers, get rid of people, when they can just come back through days, months later. We have to secure our borders first. There's a lot of controversy as far as ICE, but leftists are making it controversial. They're turning it into a war zone. They're making it so that it is dangerous for them. And then when something does pop off because they are purposefully interfering with getting rid of some of the worst people in our country, and even if they're not the worst people in our country, people who should not be here, um, that is a problem. They have to go. Just as if I left here and went to Mexico and I wanted to stay there and sit on the beach and overstay my visa, trust and believe they'll find me and they'll kick me out of Mexico because I'm not supposed to be there anymore. Literally every country does this. So this is nothing new. Um, they're making this appear as this is something rare. ICE has been around for a while, quite some time. So we have to secure our borders, which we're doing now. We have to get rid of people who should not be here. In regards to the truckers, we have to enforce the rules and standards. There has to be some teeth behind it. I don't know if we have to go as far as jailing people to make it a high offense if they are caught behind the wheel of a truck um, and they're not supposed to. If they're driving a truck that was shut down and they're still doing it, maybe they should just be locked up. Maybe that's what we really need to push for. There has to be some sort of penalty. It's not enough to just write them a ticket or even just tell them to get out of the truck for now. Someone else would pick up the load and take it. Nothing will happen to the carrier. Or even if some does happen to the carrier, they'll still take loads. Or they'll start another company tomorrow online and just continue doing what they're doing. So, what's the solution? I think the solution is you might have to start locking up some of these people. You might have to start impounding trucks. One or the other. There has to be some sort of severe penalty for doing these particular things. Um, you might have to start going after brokers to make them accountable because without the brokers, they wouldn't be getting the loads. So there has to be some level of accountability at hand because the way things are going is the Wild West in trucking. And ultimately, what happens is accidents are going to happen because these guys aren't qualified, they're not skilled, they can't speak English, which means they also can't read English. They don't fully understand the signs. And when they mess up, it's a big mess up. They kill people, they hurt people, people get injured. And what happens to them? Well, justice rarely comes. Sometimes they get locked up, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just get deported. So now this person gets deported, and this person is injured and disfigured or dead. That it's just for every crime that happens because an illegal immigrant is here, um, it's an unnecessary crime. Like, so when leftists want to espouse immigrants commit less crimes than American citizens, illegal immigrants should be committing zero crimes because they shouldn't be here. And I don't think it's by accident that we have an all-time low in murders, an all-time low in violent crimes. throughout the country. So spare me with the illegal immigrants are all angels. Clearly, they're not. They're human beings, just like Americans. We're not all angels, but we have a birthright. We're allowed to be here, or we're legal citizens to be here. And if we mess up, we go to jail. But what often happens when they mess up for small infractions, they disappear because there's no trace of them. You can't find them. So where are they? I don't know. If Jose is drinking and driving and crashes into a family and kills them, he can just disappear on bail, travel across the country. He can give them a fake name. We'd have no idea. These are untraceable people. So we can't have a system with two set of rules, one for legals and one for illegals, because that is an unfair society. If we're going to save trucking, we have to stop the illegal immigration situation. I think that's the only real way of moving forward. But with that said, if you can give, go to gibsongo.com, illegal highways, donate, help to bring this project to fruition. I'm going to end it here. This is my first time doing this, solo at least. But let me know what you guys think. If you want more of this, I'll do more of it. Maybe I'll get some guests next time. But until then, God bless everyone. Those are my thoughts.